Good morning. This week, we're going to be talking about some tips on how to read your Bible. If the Bible is a book that God has had written for us so that we can know Him, the very relationship that we were created for, um, then it would be good for us to really think about how we approach reading the Bible. In helpful and healthy and appropriate ways, and avoid some of the common pitfalls that we can run into when trying to discern what God is trying to tell us about Himself or about us or what it means to live in a way that's honoring to Him. So, yesterday we talked about the idea that authors, when they write, they have an intent. They have an idea that they want to convey or a reason for which they're writing. We talked about John, we talked about Matthew. If you look at Luke and Acts, you see that Luke is actually writing to a guy named Theophilus. And so his intent is to write an account of Jesus's life to this person. I'm sure he imagines it's going to get circulated after it gets delivered to Theophilus. But so the idea of the author's intent means that there is an author which falls into this larger category of context. So there's authors, there's genres, there's purposes in writings, there's original audiences, there's cultures that go with those original audiences. There's lots and lots of stuff that goes to context. You can have cultural context, historical context. You can also have grammatical context. So my professors like to say context is king. And I agree. If we're unaware of the context, we're going to be missing stuff or misinterpreting things. So I want to point out why grammatical context is important here. So often in our Bible reading, we can read a paragraph at a time, or a section at a time, or a chapter at a time, or even just a verse at a time. And while I do believe that God can speak through those verses, those words, in that more focused context, I think often we can misconstrue what's happening or miss the bigger point of what's being said, and we focus on something that maybe wasn't the main intention of what was being said. So I'm going to read a passage in Philippians. It's in chapter 4. You can read it later, but you're going to hear a verse that often gets used, and I'm going to challenge its use just a little bit. So this is grammatical context. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever's true, whatever's honorable, whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever's commendable, if there's any moral excellence, and if there's anything praiseworthy, dwell on these things. Do what you've learned and received and heard from me and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. I rejoiced in the Lord greatly because once again you renewed your care for me. You were, in fact, concerned about me, but lacked the opportunity to show it. I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know both how to make do with little, and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I've learned the secret of being content. Whether well fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need, I'm able to do all things through Him who strengthens me. Still, you did well by partnering with me in my hardship. Okay, Paul continues, but there's a verse in there that you might see on high school sports t-shirts. I can do all things through Him who strengthens me. And I get what you're getting at. I might even say it's the right concept, but the wrong verse. This verse, Paul, so with the grammatical context, what's coming before, and I didn't give you what's coming after, Paul's writing a letter to the church in Philippi, and he's saying, hey, thanks for your support. Even though I didn't need it, I've learned the secret of being content. It's, I can have a lot, I can have a little, but any of these situations, I can make it through because of Christ. And so there's an element of that principle of what I think the sports t-shirts are trying to get at. Um, but I think sometimes we can misunderstand really what Paul is getting at. That a victory or is a sports victory is probably not in Paul's mind when he's saying that, or making lots of money, or powering through some hardship. Even though all those things require us to depend on God, and yes, of course, He can um, sustain us through those things, but the emphasis feels a little bit different to me in those. So, thanks for hanging with me on a longer video. The rest of the week, I'll keep talking about some tips on how to read your Bible, but today is grammatical or literary context. Making sure you're reading what comes before and what comes after, that you're not just taking little snippets and trying to figure out what they mean outside of their original context. Have a great rest of your day.